Before we start the show, let me thank you for clicking onto this video. If you'd like to see more videos like these, why not subscribe and hit the bell button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, on with the show.
One mark will be vehicle 6.
Compliance of warrior women.
Hi friends, I'm LJ Jarvis, and welcome back to Will's Jarvis Show.
Greetings everyone, welcome back to On Air with Jarvis, the podcast of all things Warhammer and general stuff I find of interest. Joining me this week is the heretic himself, Chrono. How's it going, good sir?
It is I, the memer, the screamer, and the all-around dreamer, Chrono the Heretek. I am doing great, and I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
And it's great to have you on today, good sir. It's very great to have you on. So,
Hey.
But to get right into the show, I gotta ask you, Chrono, who may you be for the audience in the back? Give a little introduction to yourself.
Saying it for the people in the back, I am Chrono the Heretek. I am admittedly a very minor community figure. What's it called? I have my own YouTube channel where I like to dub 40k comics and memes, and honestly just any social media post I find funny. I do a little bit of voice acting work. I have been, in all my history of voice acting work, I've been paid a total of $5. But actually, no, it was $10, but I couldn't actually receive the payment to my bank account, so I just got it on Steam.
Gain money for videos. I wish I knew what that was like.
No. One day, brother.
But hey, I like to do this just for fun either way, so money does really matter to me.
This episode of the podcast has been sponsored by
Raid Shadow Legends, the online mobile game with over 50 champions to choose from if you click the code here. Not only that, but if you use barcode Jarvis, you can also get over 500 gold and an exclusive champion just for you. This offers only for 3 weeks, so click on that link now in the description below. That is Raid Shadow Legends /Jarvis.
God. Like, I think you need to pitch the idea where you'll just drop the ad, not in an ad break in the start, but at random in the middle of the podcast itself. Man, yeah. It was really hard writing the script for this podcast. Good thing I have Grammarly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's a whole build-up, yeah. And speaking of build-up, this sounds random, but I just want to bring it up now because we have the topic of raids on here now. So on Mother's Day, me and my sister were polishing some silverware for my mom's tea party and all that. Because that's something we do every Mother's Day every year. And she was watching, and she was playing a video about some girl talking about murder mysteries, because that's her whole YouTube channel. Because women like murder documentaries.
Yeah, I don't know why, but so many women really love true crime, and I feel like the women who love true crime documentaries are the same breed of guys who love war history videos on YouTube. I feel like they're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, my sister would go, "Oh, Lewis, not all women," and I was like, "Well, do you?" And she was like, "Yes."
That's me. Well, not all guys just binge history YouTube videos nonstop, but don't you? That's besides the point.
But anyway, so the girl in the video was doing a whole ad on honey, right? And I asked her if she had ever done one on Raid Shadow Legends, and she was like, "What's that?" Then I said, "You never heard? You mean the online mobile game with over 50 champions?" And I spoke as if I was doing the ad. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the game.
The segue no one ever expects.
Yeah. Hey,
that's the true cyberpunk dystopia. Not visors and Akira-style motorcycles. It's just advertisements coming out of nowhere in the middle of conversations with your friends because they've been paid under the table.
Speaking of paid under the table, have you ever heard of... I don't know which ad to use. Never mind, forget.
Oh, God.
I'm never going to play those mobile games because guess what? They're not real video games, and I got better things to do.
And my phone battery's shit. Like I've played the closest thing I've ever played to a mobile game was a Need for Speed game called Need for Speed Unlimited, a driving game. Driving games are really limited on mobile. Oh, yeah, and Mortal Kombat. They had a Mortal Kombat mobile game, which was really fun. It was almost more like a card game of sorts, a mix between a card game and a fighting game. Both of those were bad. They were pretty fun, but they are a nightmare on your phone battery, and your phone gets so hot. Like, it's not efficient.
Like, if I wanted to play a portable game, I would play either a DS or a Game Boy.
Oh, God. But be careful when you say that, because there are people who swear by every single game on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I actually have the original Pokemon games for Game Boy.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and those games are addictive.
I've actually never played a Pokemon game. Like, I've seen other people play them, but I myself have never actually played one. I don't know, for some reason it was just something I could never get into. Also because the nostalgia factor isn't really there for me, because I never had a Game Boy as a kid. The first gaming anything I had was a Nintendo DS, but eventually the right arrow key stopped working. No, the left arrow key stopped working, so I could only make left turns. So the only game I could play at that point was Mario Kart, specifically Mario Kart for the DS Balloon Battle on a few specific maps. That was the only thing I could play because I was missing an arrow key. And eventually, I got a PlayStation 3. My first real gaming system, aside from the DS, was the PlayStation 3, and I adored that thing. That was my baby. The games I had on that were a lot of racing games, MotorStorm, Need for Speed. I had this dragon game called Lair, where you play a dragon rider. It's one of those games that a lot of people, I think, remember, but it's like memory hold for a lot of people. It used the 6-axis controller to fly a dragon, and it was so clunky.
Oh yeah, I remember that game. That game. I actually destroyed. I destroyed my copy actually because I hated this so much.
A lot of people are in that camp, and for me, I can openly admit this. It's fully a nostalgia goggles thing, because it was one of the first games I had, and I thought the story was so interesting that I really did try, and I did beat the game. It's one of the few games I actually ever beat.
Oh man, Chrono. Seriously, man, buddy.
I got into gaming really late in my life compared to a lot of other people. But that was back in I think grade 8. No, not grade 8. Grade like 6 or 7. I was in middle school when I first got into gaming. And the Lego games. I played a lot of the Lego games. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Batman. Those were the jam.
Those were the jam.
Mm-hmm.
But not to diversity topic so much. Right. Some of you actually may know Chrono, who, because he actually had done some voice work on his channel before. After all, he did the I did the Do the Tao Fin 40K Sane video. He narrated one of the quotes in it.
Yeah, that was something I enjoyed doing, and actually back then I was a lot less aware of how to properly do reading. I didn't know proper vocal warm-ups as much, and the system I was using to record was actually just QuickTime Audio on my MacBook. And while I actually still don't have a microphone, I use GarageBand now, which has clearer reception and a noise gate in the background. So it is better now. It's better now, but yeah.
And it was actually that video. It was actually one of the first videos in which I started using quotes in the in the fashion and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in which I would have like a picture and there would be text and someone would narrate it. That would be one of the first videos in which I would do it that way. And I did, and there is some clips in the audio because that's something on my fault because I didn't exactly equalize the audio, so you could hear the clips of audio because it's spiking. So that's a bit
the spiking and the smackle, right? Smackle is a voice work term for when you hear that way.
No, it's not that, but Audio clipping. That's from me.
The clipping and the peaking, yeah.
So,
but like all things considered, the video holds up.
yeah, it's
Like
still
a lot
it holds
of
up very well, I think. Yeah, and
Oh yeah,
I learned from it. I mean, I got better at
Mhm.
making quotes afterwards, I think.
absolutely. And on that note, if ever you need someone to read a quote or anything, I'd be happy to. Like I think I thought it was a lot of fun to do. I got to feel all professional and academic.
You really do sound academic when you were doing the quote, I gotta say.
Yeah, that I really tried to stress it. Like I was, it's because I have a university professor who would talk like that. He would start a sentence normally and then pound the last few words. Like I remember the line from the clip I recorded for you, the Tau. They always choose to fight. Yeah,
That's
I
how
took
he
inspiration
talks.
from, yeah, one of my professors.
Awesome. And I will actually say this, that I would say that that video itself is actually in my top 5 list of my favorite videos I've ever done.
Oh hell yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was
On
actually.
that note,
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, if it's in your top 5, out of curiosity, what would you say is your favorite video you've ever done? Like this is that one video where like, damn, I'm proud of this.
Out of them all,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can pick one exactly, but I can tell you the other 4 that are in my top 5 lists.
Sure.
Though actually, if I were to say my favorite video of all time, I think maybe the Royal Nor one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I got Aneptus to narrate Ryanor. I got to make a Dreadnought voice filter for it, which was really fun to do. And I think by the presentation of it, I really liked it.
That one is good. Yeah, I do feel that one. Yeah, like the audio came out well. I think a lot of what is said in the video is really snappy. And like I think that's one thing that I can see as an improvement in your videos. Like the more of your personality is starting to come through in your videos as they've gone on, as opposed to some of the earlier ones which were like really sterile, and which is good, in my opinion.
And, though I think what's probably my most popular video has been the Lilith one.
Oh, okay, that's a thumbnail. That's a thumbnail thing.
And I am reviewing them all, and there were people who were passionate about the old model saying, well, I don't like it because her face just looks too ugly and she doesn't look, she's way too buff. And the new model, I mean, her model's way too buff. And actually, about that video is actually one of the first videos that YouTube actually removed the thumbnail for because they hate Lilith ass.
Oh, cowards. Cowards, I say.
Yeah, cowards, you have like clickbait videos all the time, and you have like swimsuit channels. Are you saying that's not bait?
I at least it was. I've seen actually videos where like the thumbnail, it's just straight up cropped hentai or cropped porn that has nothing to do with the actual video. Like it's just like a TikTok meme compilation, but the thumbnail for some reason is just hentai.
Or it's like fem, or it's like you breed your femboy.
Oh god.
ASMR.
ASMR. Some ASMR channels get so bonkers. It's honestly amazing, and they get so hyper specific.
Mm-hmm.
Or my favorite one has to be ASMR to help you sleep. I beat you until you're unconscious.
Or it's like
flipper.
Yeah. Though before we move on, I think this is also important to note that I think the most important video, maybe not the most popular or well presented video that I've done so far, would be the first Crimson Fist video I've done, as I think that's the video that made me start doing the kind of videos I would do later on. Giving my own little theories and perspective on things. The one about should the Crimson Fist be poster boys one.
Yeah, that's yeah, I know that one. I'm actually just pulling up your channel right now to see by views.
It's certainly done well.
Yeah. Yeah, should the Crimson Fist be poster boys? That's up there in the list of views. That one was a good one.
Yeah. It was around 4 years old, I think. I think it's 4 years old right now.
Yeah, it's 4 years old.
and that was actually video 2 of when I actually started making videos for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think even though I don't do videos like that anymore, and that video was scripted, and I was reading off a script off my laptop at the time.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's the video that made me start doing the kind of stuff I would do now.
Mm-hmm. I feel that like there are some videos like they're like, oh, maybe it's not the greatest video in the world, production wise, or that it hasn't aged perfectly, but it holds a place in your heart because it's very formative.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good video in its own sense. It's not like, oh, this is just horrible. It's me off script with a phone, doing off a phone. It's not something like that. I think it had the presentation. It's just I got better at making it, better doing the presentation.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Your most viewed video is the unfortunate end of Lord Inquisitor.
Why is that popular, guys? I've made better stuff.
It's like it's sitting at 3.4 thousand views.
Yeah, it's like, why? It's like I made that literally in like, it's not even a minute long or full whole minute.
It's a minute and 57 seconds.
Yeah, or it's not even 2 minutes long, guys. It's just me saying, yeah, I'm disappointed, guys. And that's the most downvoted video before YouTube started, taking away the thumbnail ratio.
Oh, boy.
And it's like, why are you going after me? I'm just the messenger.
Oh, God. Well, you know what they say. We take those. Any publicity.
It's like a news reporter saying that, oh, sorry, guys, turns out that the sports game's canceled, and they go after the news reporter.
Yeah. Or they start tearing up the city when they lose. Like, I don't know what the local trash can did or what the local small business did to screw over your team. Though, to be fair, it's not the worst thing that's happened from a lost football game. The football war.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
I wonder in the future, is there gonna be a YouTube video that triggers like a civil conflict or like a war? Like it's gonna be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Is that the cyberpunk dystopia we got, boys? The YouTube war.
Though, if you want to start shit for a 4AK channel, do one about female space marines.
Yes, that powder keg.
I did that. I did that video, and that's also part of my top 5 list, and I think I did that one well, I think.
Yeah. Like,
so sorry, go on.
Now, I was going to say, like, I personally don't really have anything against the concept of female space marines, and I think if done right, it could work perfectly fine. But, like, it would run into canon, but as we know, GW doesn't respect canon all that much, if I'm being honest. Like, they retcon shit all the time. And I think one thing is, like, if there's going to be more of a focus on women in 40K, there's a better way to do it than just stuffing women into power armor. Like, go more into some female inquisitors. The Adeptus Sororitas definitely need more attention. I know a book for the Adeptus Sororitas recently got released. I forget what it's called. But yeah, you get the idea.
And which I think they're doing now. And, not for me to be too fixated on a subject, because everyone in the audience probably already knows my position on this whole thing. So I won't be too fixated on this whole topic.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just a topic everyone's bored of already. There's nothing much for me to talk about anymore,
Yeah.
But,
like, it's also a topic that's sort of fallen to the bottom of, it's sort of settled to the bottom of the fandom. Like, no one really talks about that anymore. It was a big thing for a little while, but nobody talks about it anymore, really.
It's just not something really to care about anymore, I think.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask you the obvious, Chrono. What was your first vodka? Sorry, what was your first vodka shot when it comes to your first experience with 4AK? What was your first exposure to the same?
That's actually a very interesting story, because I had heard the name Warhammer. Like, I had heard about Warhammer 40,000, and the reason I heard about it is because one time I saw a meme, which was a chart of what board game should you play, or what tabletop game should you play, and then it was a flow chart of, like, do you want, like, how much money are you willing to spend? A lot, a little. And then, are you good at painting? Yes or no? And then it says, are you fine with 2 hours of prep time before you actually play? And then the option was yes, and it led to Warhammer 40,000. So I wondered to myself, I'm like, damn, what is that thing where you have to spend money on models, paint them, and set up for 2 hours before you play? Geez, what is that? Like, that's what I wondered. And this was back in like the 8th, 9th, or 10th grade. And then I saw my teacher mention Warhammer because he said for a project once, a student brought in Warhammer models and got everyone to assemble them and paint them, but he had misunderstood the point of the assignment. So even though everyone had a blast, the teacher actually had to fail him.
What?
Yeah. So then I was really curious
Scab.
as to what this, to what this Warhammer thing was. So I actually looked into on Tumblr, searched up 40K, and then I discovered 40K memes, and I found out about God Emperor, Blood for the Blood God, Chaos, all this.
And discovered a lot of porn.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's Tumblr.
Lord have... This was before the Tumblr apocalypse.
Yeah.
This was before Tumblr got torched. I'm actually still active on Tumblr, oddly enough. The one social media I've had longer than anything, ever since grade 11, which I think is almost like 9 or 10 years at this point, is Tumblr. And I'm still on there. But what's it called? Yeah, and then I found the memes on Tumblr, and then I started binging videos by Luton, Luton Zero, and then that was my real first introduction into the lore. And there was one summer where I didn't have anything else to do, so I would lay on my bed and have a Luton video just playing on my phone beside me. And then I would keep falling asleep during the videos, wake up, realize, shit, I just missed half an hour of video, and scroll back and just keep going back over them. Because even though I kept falling asleep, I found them so cool. And I binged so many of his videos. And that was my first real, I guess you could say, my first real vodka shot. The other things were just like, a sip of Grandpa's wine or something. But my first real shot was that summer where I just sat there and just binged Luton videos over and over. And then it led to more and more involvement, meeting some community figures, getting more involved, getting more into the setting, and here I am.
That's quite an interesting story, I think. And Hubert even told me that his exposure to Warhammer YouTubers was like Luin 09 and all that,
Oh yeah.
Now
I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, actually, because a lot of his videos are very high quality, and they're very informative and done in such a way that really sort of pique your interest.
Though unfortunately, I don't watch Luin's videos. I guess I just never really hopped onto the train. Mm-hmm. But I won't deny that.
I know other people who don't, just because they're long and some people find them a little bit arduous to watch.
Maybe not really that, but more of I just never really gave it a chance. But I can't deny that he's probably a very important figurehead in Warhammer YouTubers, I think.
Oh yeah.
However, to get right into the meat of the whole topic at hand, new Chaos models. They're beautiful. I love the new cultists. What do you think on that, Chrono?
I absolutely agree. That's one thing, say what you will about GW. They've been really nailing it lately with the models, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've been good, especially also bringing back some of the Beaky Boys has been a good move on their part.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new Chaos, and I've always really liked Chaos models. I always find them to be very interesting, very cool. Especially some of the new Knights also, very nice.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I really like the different variants of cultists. At least I do, not just, here's the regular vanilla cultist and that's it. We actually got a lot more versions of cultists. We got one that looks like the Thane alien. And I would say that's probably my favorite type of cultist with this new model range because, I really like the movie The Thane, and I really like the idea of humans being literally warped by chaos and they're looking like all these flesh monsters almost half their torso is like a stomach, or their spines turn into claws, stuff like that.
Or the one where it looks like the skin is just stretched over.
Mm-hmm.
as opposed like a mask being pulled down as opposed to like actual skin.
Yeah, and I really like body horror like that. I like stuff like that for movies or horror in general. And seeing that done and seeing that done for Chaos, I think it really works.
I think that's because we're both Canadian, and this is the country where David Cronenberg is from. So it's kind of in our blood to be into the body horror aspect of it. No, but like I feel that because like one thing, like don't get me wrong, I appreciate the Chaos aesthetic of yes, there are the edge, spikes, horns, but like to really get into the chaos, like to really get into the horror of what Chaos can be and how warping of a force it is. I think the body horror aspect of the models really do help with that a lot. The very horrifying nature of it. Like, it's very visceral, you know?
Yeah, I can totally understand that. And I think, especially for Chaos, is that they're not Shadow the Hedgehog. They're not just black. I mess up the song. Brave-hearted hero or black-hearted.
Black-hearted? Just nothing personnel, commissar.
Or it's like,
no.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald? He said, damn. But yes, I think Chaos is not like Shadow the Hedgehog and all that. So seeing more of the body horror when it comes to like warp mutations, that's especially cool to see in art and books and models. I really like stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever read Lords of Silence, it really gets into how horrifying worshipping Nurgle can be and like Nurgle's gifts can be.
Yeah, I really like stuff like that. And again, the new Chaos Cultists are beautiful to see. But I think the best looking or the best Chaos model that did come out, not only like the new Possessed Marines or stuff like that, I really like the new Demon Prince for 40K. That looks beautiful.
One second, let me just get a refresher and pull up the image of it. I did see it. Yes. That's a really good one. One thing I always wonder is like, damn, this must be hell to paint, but it would be so worth it.
It does look like it would be worth it, and what I especially like is like the different variants of heads you can give it.
Like I see some of them are helmeted, some are more bare, the different kinds of horns, which I think actually makes it really cool whether or not you're going to make it Chaos Undivided or Khorne or whatnot.
Yeah, so it's not just a matter of, painted red and it's now a Prince of Khorne. Now you can give it a separate head in which it's more bull-like with like a mane, and that does look like a Demon of Khorne sort of entity and all that. Or you can give it like the bird-like Tzeentch head. You can give it the bull-like Slanesh.
One that looks almost more like a sort of helmet of sorts, almost like an Iron Warrior, and Iron Warriors are sort of the go-to for Chaos Undivided.
Or you can give it the Nurgle head and all that. It's just a it's just a gorgeous looking model, and that was probably my whole spotlight during Warhammer Fest. Oh yeah. Because
unfortunately, I did not catch Warhammer Fest, but yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, but you saw the new Demon Prince for AOS, right?
Yes, that one is great. That one I like for the exact opposite reason. It's just a really slick, classic, giant demon look, like a very Diablo kind of thing. Like it's a classic, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Like to me, it sort of looks like a Shimigami from Death Note. I'm not saying it's a bad model, and I think it's good in its own way too. Like it has its own little gothy sort of tone to it. Though I was hoping that they would do something like the, vanilla looking Demon Prince that we all know for like 40K and whatnot, and seeing that done for 40K again.
Okay, I was thinking of the new Be'lakor model. I am so sorry.
Oh no, Whoops. Not Be'lakor, the AOS Demon Prince. You know what I'm talking about?
No, unfortunately.
Let me see if I pull up the picture. I can probably send you on Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. He does look like it's the teeth. That mouth looks like kind of Shinigami-esque. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's good in its own right. And
That's okay. That's the one I was referring to when I said almost looks like a helmet for a head. Almost looks almost Iron Warrior-esque. That's the one I was referring to. I'm sorry, I'm all turned around. But yeah, no, that's a really good model. One thing I'm a sucker for is always the face on the chest plate kind of thing.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. And also sort of yeah, like the faces everywhere thing you see on the pauldron, the hip armor, the chest. It's great. This is great. That's the one thing that kind of makes me want to get into Sigmar is just how good a lot of the models are.
yeah, when it comes to me trying to start an AOS army, it's a bit of a mess. I've started an Idoneth army, but I've messed up the color scheme so much that it just looks like an eyesore to look at, so I've put them away. I got one of these star sets where it has like Aurochs and Stormcast Eternals. Not the very big Dominion box, but one of the very smaller versions, you know?
Ah, nice.
I have that one, so I'll probably do something nice with those sets of models, but perhaps my most favorite AOS faction out of them all would probably be Fire Slayers, since, you know, I can't really escape them from, you know, books. But
Yeah.
Overall, I think they have really neat lore. They have cool looking models, and if I were to say what's my favorite AOS faction, I would probably say Fire Slayers.
That, you know, their models are really cool because it very much has the Gotrek vibe, and like that red sort of dwarven mohawk is really good. Like it's a powerful aesthetic is what I'm going to say.
Especially now, since Gotrek is in the setting.
Gotcha. Yes, and Felix is now a Sigmarine.
Well, we don't know if he's a Sigmarine yet.
True.
But it's very heavily implied that he could be.
My I do have a funny story to get to about my first Gotrek and Felix book, but one thing I want to say is my favorite factions in Sigmar are the undead ones. I've always have a big soft spot for almost zombie kind of factions and undead kind of factions. Like there's this one faction, I forget what they're called, where they're just these horrible deformed ghouls, but they're all delusional and hallucinate themselves as honorable, noble knights of the court, even though they're just rotting creatures. I just think that's really cool.
Fleshier courts. That's what they are.
Yes, that's the one. That's a really cool concept of opinion.
Yeah,
and
I read
just some of the other ones that are loyal to Ganache, but also like the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt, I think, is one. Yeah, there were a lot of really cool undead stuff in Sigmar. I think it's great.
Yeah, I read about them in Ghoul Slayer. That was probably a good little experience on, you know, getting to know them, you know?
That is a book I need to read then. Funny thing, the only Sigmar book I've read is, I think it's like half of the first Gotrek and Felix book, Troll Slayer. It's a funny thing, I couldn't find, because I am not in a position where I can buy books or pay for audiobooks, so I just see whatever audiobooks I can find free online or whatever PDFs I can find online. Really sorry to everybody who hears that, but it's the best I can do. So I was listening to the Grimdark narrator read aloud in installments the first Gotrek and Felix book, and I thought there was a really funny moment where, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, it was a really funny moment where during a tense moment in the book, he's like, a door slowly creaked opened, and Felix braced himself as the opened passage revealed. And then a YouTube ad hit right at that second. So literally all I heard was, Felix braced himself, sword in hand, as the door swung open to reveal. Grammarly! That actually happened. And I had to pause the video and just take 2 minutes to just laugh, because I wasn't looking at the screen at the time to caught me so off guard. Just, hey, I see you're writing a death poem for a suicidal troll. That's writing a death poem for a suicidal dwarf is not that easy, but Grammarly can help. God damn it.
Yeah, when it comes to Gotrek and Fields books, right now I've just finished Vampire Slayer, so that was a fun little story to listen to on the Black Library app.
Yeah, that's one that you've mentioned, and you from your recommendation, it was really good, right?
I liked it, though. I would probably say that my favorite Gotrek and Fields books of all time right now wouldn't be Vampire Slayer; it would be Dragon Slayer. But and I would probably say that Vampire Slayer is. It's not an awful book. I'm not saying it's a bad book at all, because it's not. I'm just saying it's my least favorite Gotrek and Fields book. Just
I see.
it's not bad. Fair. It's not a bad book at all, though. I would probably say it's my least favorite.
So there always has to be a last place, and that's fine. I get it. The one I do really want to read is Skaven Slayer, of course.
That's a good one.
Yup. The fucking Skaven.
Yeah, and that's actually the first one where you get to meet Thankful for the first time.
Oh, nice.
And what I liked about William King when he was writing those books, especially when he gets to feature Skaven, is that they're sort of written like Disney villains, right?
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. The Skaven are played as like a self-aware joke, where they're so manic and over the top. They're almost like the hyenas from The Lion King. That's what they remind me of.
Almost something like that.
Yeah.
And where it's like, I'm the greatest Skaven in the world. Yes, I'm going to conquer all of humanity. I'm going to be the champion of the Horned Rat. The mission doesn't go well. Oh, it's all your fault. And then they get confronted by an angry mob, and it's like, see ya.
Oh god. Like, you can just imagine, like, when a Disney villain runs away, there's like a pew, and then like a little smoke cloud.
Or it's like he's slowly walking away. It's like, hey, okay, gentlemen, don't throw those bottles. Don't throw those bottles.
Don't throw those bottles. Yeah. God, I know exactly what that's from. But yeah, that sort of thing. And like, that's the thing. It's just really fun. And I think maybe part of the reason for that is because GW is more willing to screw around with their factions a little more in Sigmar, as opposed to 40k, which, as the years have gone on, has been played more and more seriously. Like, it's more and more serious and intense about the story and all these characters, as opposed to Sigmar, where they are more willing to just kind of throw in anything and see what sticks.
I think that's also because AOS is the younger saying too.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is a younger game, and I think there's less rules to follow then, if you see what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, there's less established canon and less people who are going to rules lawyer you.
But then again, I think that's for AOS first edition, but I think by right now, by third edition, I think they finally found that look and what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like second edition is when they started polishing the thing, like taking away the rough edges and like, okay, let's fix this. Let's maybe write out this. Let's fix that. You know, they were trying to find foundation at last. And that's when I think people started really liking AOS again, or they started liking AOS.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, that's when it started to pick up steam.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what helped, I think, Sigmar was a lot of people who were getting fed up with 40k, like the vibe and the direction in which the series was going. Because 40k was stagnating a lot at the time. Like, there was not a lot happening in the canon, in the books, during that period when Sigmar first started coming up. So people hopped on that to see what the buzz was about, and I think a lot of people stuck with it. Like, the timing was really good of Sigmar coming up for it to grow. Like, there was a vacuum.
This is before 8th edition, right?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
And like in the early 2000s, a lot of the books were really subpar. Like, we got the Inquisition War books, like Ian Watson books, and a lot of people were just so put off by those.
But I gotta ask you this one thing, man. New World Eaters, they're coming. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, please. I think that's going to be awesome. one thing with the world eaters is they can come across as pretty basic. Those world eaters who aren't like part of the Black Legion, like just really just generic and angry, and the models not being that great. That's the thing with the world eaters. The models all tend to look really samey. So I really want to see what the new stuff looks like.
As like with what Games Workshop were able to do for like Thousand Suns and Death Guard, of how they were able to expand, what was originally just a single squad of models, like long before 8th edition or 7th edition in this case. Because Thousand Suns started becoming a thing during 7th edition. So
right.
The fact they were able to like expand on them, able to do like more variants of Death Guard, more variants on Thousand Suns, I think they can do some. I have no doubt they're going to do something for World Eaters. Give us a lot more stuff than just Khorne Berserkers,
Because like the thing is when it comes to the other 3 Chaos Gods, Slanesh, Tzeentch, and the Death Guard, there's a lot of room for mutations and very different looks to them. Like some things are going to be rotted open, some things are going to have tentacle arms or mouth on the stomach, or all kinds of different heads, or really warped, interesting looking engines and vehicles. But Khorne Berserkers, they don't really care for vehicles, so you're not going to get that. They just like to run in with their axe, and the mutations are all very samey, horns and spikes. That's the thing. Like, it's a little bit difficult to work with conceptually, so everything ends up looking samey. Like, you can't really experiment with firearms, and yeah.
But
I really want to see what they do. Like, that's one thing that's always kind of struck me about Khorne, is that the aesthetic was always lacking a little bit. Because of that. Because the other 3 are so heavy on mutations and variation.
And I can agree with that. Although, if you could, though, going back to AOS, with what they were able to do with Blades of Khorne, I can imagine they could do something like that for Khorne Berserkers. Of how they were able to flex their creativity, I mean.
Yeah. And like that goes back to what I said earlier of Age of Sigmar almost being like a blast furnace for experimentation and new ideas, as opposed to in 40k, where they're a little more cautious moving forward with new things for fear of screwing up and upsetting the very large fan base. Well, in Sigmar, they have more room to get away with it if something doesn't stick.
So I can imagine they might do something like how they were able to flex on Blades of Khorne. I can imagine that.
Yeah. And I think that would be really cool, because I really did like the Blades of Khorne models. I thought they were very interesting. And obviously there are some inherent stylistic differences between 40k and Sigmar, but the general idea is visible of what they can go with. And I'm excited to see that.
Like, I could probably imagine, like, there's going to be some kind of Khorne Berserker model that's, like, almost Minotaur looking. Like, he has, like, giant bull legs. He has, like, huge horns because he's, like, that warped by Khorne's blessing. I can imagine there's something like that.
Absolutely. Like, that would be really cool. Or an idea I had once is, like, what if there was... Like, the big thing with Khorne Berserkers is wielding melee weapons. So what if a mutation was, like, a third arm? Or almost like a scorpion tail with an axe on the back. So you can have more weapon per weapon.
Okay.
Yo, dog, I heard you like melee weapons, so we put melee weapons on your melee weapon, so you could melee weapon while you melee weapon.
Okay, I can see that. Maybe, yeah.
That's one thing I think would be cool. Like the idea of like a scorpion tail or a second set of arms or like a third arm in the back to come over top with like a hammer or something or an axe.
Or maybe a Khorne Berserker in which he looks like a flesh hound almost.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool. Like a flesh hound head, or is hunched over.
Yeah, he's like hunched. He's like hunched over. He's sort of like a werewolf, but done as a flesh hound.
Yeah. Or hear me out. Just straight up centaur. Just try and make a centaur, or like something where it's got like 4 legs and 2 arms, or something like that.
Yeah, definitely, and
I think a centaur Khorne Berserker would look sick.
Yeah, and actually, that's kind of like my original idea. If I were to make Jekyll Khan into a demon prince of Khorne, he would look like a centaur.
Oh, that would be so cool.
And that would definitely work with something like what's supposed to be Space Mongolians, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my sort of like alternate 30K scenario that I had in mind like years ago. That being Jekatai Khan as a champion of Khorne.
Just swap the loyalists and the traitors. I think that would be a really fun and cool concept to play around with to make like speculative videos and stuff in the future. Like I'm saying, like I know maybe it's a concept you thought of a while ago, but I think you should go with that. That would be really cool to just hear about in a video.
And yeah, I definitely want to see like a Centaur, Khorne Berserker or something like that. That would definitely work.
Absolutely. That would be really cool. Oh, OC material right there. But yeah, that's the thing. A lot of possibilities, a lot of interesting stuff happening on the model front.
But
well, I for one, for those who don't know, I don't have a single model. I was never able to get my hands on any, and hopefully in the future, like maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, I'll start getting some models if I'm financially stable at that time. And I think one model I would like is probably some Harlequins. I would definitely want some Drukhari because I love a lot of the Drukhari vehicles and things like paint engines. They're really cool. And Adeptus Mechanicus. Those are like the three things I would want. Because I love the vehicles, the vehicle aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like vehicles and armor. Or like artillery. Those things are really cool. I think Mechanicus, Drukhari are really cool. And Harlequins, I just love the concept of in general.
Oh yeah, they're pretty cool. And I especially like the Harlequins and like the Fabius Bio books.
I still actually need to read the Fabius Bio book, sadly, which I think I'm going to get into soon. Because I'm currently in between books. I just finished a book series called Three Dark Crowns. And I'm in that sort of listless zone of not having anything to read.
Although I want to ask you this, actually. How do you imagine they're going to do Angron's Demon Prince model?
Angron's Demon Prince model?
Yeah, definitely. He's going to look like the art piece, but do you think he should be flying or do you think he should be on his feet?
I think Angron should be on his feet. Because flying, it has a level of like finesse and distance from the battlefield that I don't think he'd want. Maybe you could give him like those kind of wings.
He
where
does
they
have
almost
wings.
Huh?
He does have wings, yeah, but I'd imagine it would just be there to make him look bigger.
That's what I'm saying. Like, give them those kind of wings that are almost like vestigial, where they don't actually have any webbing in between, where it's just like the strands and they look like charred or something. I know. I know how the artwork looks. I'm just sort of spitballing ideas of because since they're changing things as it is, like what might be cool. Because I don't think a flying unit would really just suit Angron as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd want to be on the ground. He would want to be fighting.
And
it's because he's just a rolling boulder of a character.
And the chance that he would be flying was probably like if he's like leaping towards someone and the wings give him the advantage.
Like a jump pack, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
And he needs to look really bronze because
yeah.
I don't think gold really works for Khorne. It's definitely bronze because, that's
bronze
how he's described. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bronze. Enough bronze to make like, damn, I forgot what it's called, but like a theater play, like how theaters have like bronze instruments,
That's brass. You're thinking of brass. The brass orchestral section, like trombones, tubas, trumpets.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's brass. That's the color. Bronze also, but brass and bronze are a little different. It's not gold for Khorne. It's brass because red, brass, and brimstone are the general colors of like hell.
Oh, okay. I just messed up there.
Yeah, which is sort of like the thing with Khorne Berserkers is their inspiration comes from that very like classic Dante's Inferno style of hell. Mm-hmm. So there are some things that they need to stick with in order to remain faithful. That being the color red, horns, brass, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if you see the Bloodthirster, don't tell me that's not how people might depict like Satan or something.
Yeah, basically. That's the thing, yeah. Like, there's a very established aesthetic, which does kind of limit their creativity a bit. As opposed to Tzeentch, where you can have basically anything, and Slaanesh, where you can have, big sexy.
Though I would say for like something that I would say for like Zinch, he has the more, Egyptian look to him.
Mm-hmm. That's something I really like, and that translates over really well with the Thousand Suns. Like that lines up really well. Like the like some of the changers of ways have the pharaoh style headdress, and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And the eye of like the symbols like the Ankh or the Eye of Anubis and that sort of thing.
Horus himself has like the Eye of Horus, literally.
Yeah,
He does actually have the sort of role. He really does have the role of like Horus from the Egyptian pantheon. Yeah.
really.
Well, I mean, to me at least, like he has the importance. He's like a son of a powerful god and all that, but he has like the fallen son sort of story in like Paradise Lost. So no, of course, because of the role of Horus, role of Horus in like Egyptian mythology and all that. I mean, But I will say this last thing about World Eaters is that I was sort of surprised how years ago when they did a new model of Khorne that they didn't really do anything for World Eaters when his new model came out.
Yeah, but
Like, you know what I mean, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's maybe because there's a bit of a lack of interest by the fan. There's a bit of a lack of interest by the fans in World Eaters as a whole, and more people just gravitate towards specific characters like Khorne and Eorvine, and of course Angron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, not to be so fixated on World Eaters, because I think we've all said our piece on them. I want to ask you this last thing about Chaos related is that the character Huron Blackheart, right?
I think so. I've heard that name somewhere. Who is he?
So he's a Chaos Lord from a formal Space Marine chapter called the Astral Claws. He's basically, what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, he's from the War of Dabab. I think that's what it's called, right?
The Badab War. Yeah.
Dabab War. That's right.
No, it's Badab. I'm pretty sure.
Thank you. So there's a book on him, and I'm interested in reading the book soon. And no doubt, there's probably going to be a trilogy coming out because that's what happens with characters like Huron. They usually get trilogies and all that.
Yeah.
So for Huron, if they were to do a model on him, how do you think they should do it? Just out of your opinion.
In my opinion, well, the big thing would be lightning. Would be claws, of course. Lightning claws.
Yeah, because his model has lightning claws. Yeah, or a lightning claw.
Yeah. So obviously for the astral aspect, astral claws, they're chaos undivided, right?
I don't think they're called that anymore. I think they're called the Crimson something now.
Astral claws.
That's their formal chapter.
Yeah, the Crimson Claw. Well, in that case, red is going to have to be a go-to color. But on that note, they need to make sure when you use red for a Chaos Legion, you need to sort of differentiate them in some way from Chaos from Khorne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it always comes back to Khorne from World Eaters. So I think maybe only like partially red in some way, and maybe have a different color for the pauldrons, and maybe don't make his model that bulky. Don't make him too wide and big. Does he wear Terminator armor?
From what it looks like on the art, he looks like he's just wearing regular power armor. I don't think he's wearing Terminator armor. And I just want to give my little quick opinion about the color thing. I think it's safe to say that World Eaters will be scarlet and all that because that is like the bloodiest of red you can go with. And
yeah,
I think for Huron, and I did see art pieces of this where maybe we can give him like bits of black and of course, but maybe for his armor, make it look crimson.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way to distinguish him from like Khorne and all that.
Yeah. And like to have as little brass on him as possible. And one thing they do is they give him a lot of black trim, like to go with the name Blackheart, because
of course,
almost have it like spider webbing out of him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think because here's the thing, don't make him that mutated, because the Astral Claws defected recently. They're not like a Horus Heresy chapter, so they wouldn't have had tens of thousands of years to just accumulate a ton of mutations and stuff. Like, make them look still a little bit more human, especially when it comes to Huron.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, his face is going to be fucked with like teeth and scars and all that. But
it's like it's like these are guys who are not from the warp; they're from the Maelstrom.
Yeah, like it's like that new generation of Heretic Astartes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make them look a little more in line, similar to Loyalists, because they haven't defected that long ago.
Though I will probably say
that's so I'm saying, like, no
sorry.
wings or anything like that, or anything too bonkers like gigantic horns coming out of his head, but still clearly a heretic.
Of course. Though what I could say is that, and this is some guy who gave the idea on Twitter when I asked this question once, is that maybe make him sort of the size of Abaddon because of his importance, you could say.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Though maybe because he's wearing extra armor, but at the same time, it's not Terminator armor.
Yeah,
I think he's
but
just making him look bigger because he's because his role is pretty big.
Oh yeah.
Or at least his importance.
He doesn't need to be like 1-to-1 same size as Abaddon, but you get the idea that these guys would be of a similar size IRL, because Abaddon is like the exact same size. In the books, he's said to look almost exactly and be the same size as Horus. So Abaddon's big.
Mm-hmm.
But like, make it so that Huron is definitely, obviously not 1-to-1 with Abaddon in his Terminator, but definitely bigger than the average Chaos Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have him have a presence to him.
And maybe give him like some kind of scenery that will make people remember, the Badab War. Maybe he's staying on maybe the Space Marine he's staying on top of is not a Ultramarine when they display them all, but maybe make him a Lamenter.
Ooh, that would be. Didn't the Lamenters rebel during the Badab War?
Oh yeah, they sort of. Oh yeah, that they did, and they joined the Astral Claws in the late years of Badab War. But I was thinking,
but thing is, the Astral Claws rebelled, and the Lamenters had a friendship with them, so they rebelled too to back them up. But then the war spiraled out of control, and the Astral Claws went full Heretic Astartes, but the Lamenters didn't, and eventually laid down their arms and were sent on a 100-year penitent crusade.
Yeah,
so the Lamenters have been brought back into the fold and they've paid their debts to the Imperium, but the Astral Claws have fully dipped.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But what I meant is that not only will it be a subtle reference to, the Badab War having the Lamenter as like a corpse, but I think it would sort of continue the story, you could say, of, Astral Claws fighting against what were former allies.
Yeah, I think that would be cool, because there was a point where the Lamenters did lay down arms. The Lamenters did break with the Astral Claws, and that would show that. That would show like you're turning on the people who were supposedly your friends. Mm-hmm. Like that would actually work. That's a really good idea when I think about it. Good point. Have it be a Lamenter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think I'll start up again. So, I think now outside of 4AK though, of course we're obsessed with 4AK. That's the whole point of this podcast. But but some of you may know that I'm actually starting to get into Dungeons and Dragons, and not too long ago, Chrono here has actually ran a game of Dungeons and Dragons, and all I gotta say was a lot of fun, and I think it'd be a good time to talk about a bit of that story.
Hell yeah. For those who don't know, which would be, all of you, I do have an original setting, and Jarvis, I'll actually send you the map, if that's okay, if you want to put in the video, where, in my setting, it's actually Earth, 1 billion years in the future, where all the civilizations have come and gone, risen and fallen, and now the current nations that exist, which are comparable in size to about nations like of World War I, have a level of technology around like the late 17th century or late 18th century, so the late 1700s. And magic does exist in this world as a consequence of a titanic war raging in the fourth dimension. And the magic that exists in the world is essentially runoff, like almost like shell casings or flecks of gunpowder and smoke coming from the fourth dimensional war and sprinkling onto ours. So even though it's greater than anything we could comprehend, it's basically just nothing. These ideas I get from series like the Sothique Cycle by Arthur C. Clarke, the guy who wrote Hyperborea and Empire of the Necromancer, which are part of the Sothique Cycle. Remembrance of Earth Past, which is a series by Cixin Liu, which delves into that dimensional aspect, and Roadside Picnic, which, Roadside Picnic, Stalker.
This is my OC world, don't steal.
This is my OC world, don't steal. Hides like the 15 things I've all taken bits and pieces from into the closet. Get in there, you. No one must know. I think that's everything every homebrew DM does, is take little cool bits and pieces from worlds they like. There's also other aspects here and there, like general politics. A lot of geopolitics in my world. So I had Jarvis and the rest of the party travel to a small desert nation called Behir Har. And they essentially were on it was a pit stop on a wider diplomatic mission, but they got roped into essentially a heist because they were told it would aid with their mission. And
it was a clever way to do a one shot, yeah.
Yeah, like there is actually a pre-made one shot called The Great Heist, and I used elements from that, slotted it into my homebrew world, and then added more and more information to bring it into the wider world to make because even though it was only like 3 sessions, I wanted the party to feel like part of this wider world and experience a part of it. And I hope I did that well.
And you certainly did.
Thanks.
As like I certainly like the saying you made us put in. It was like this sort of like Persian, Middle Eastern sort of saying. I really liked it.
Thanks. Like I took little elements from Northern India and Persia and North Africa, that sort of thing. Like
I've always been interested in that kind of like aesthetic from games like Prince of Persia.
Yes.
So doing a game like that was really fun to do, and stuff like, I don't know, Sultan High Elves, that's something I've never imagined before or thought of, and that's really creative and really fun.
Like what ended up happening in this one shot was they entered the desert nation of Behir Har, which is populated by High Elves and is a very semi-nomadic, semi-settled desert culture. So they had to deal with drunken nobles and a high elf sultan and a desert druid who was a very mysterious and almost untrustworthy figure, all the while being hunted by a French mercenary from the other side of the sea, from the nation of Hamal. And here's the thing, that French mercenary, after being defeated by them, offered his services to the party.
Well, we didn't know. And I chopped his head off and ate his head.
Yeah. You didn't even cut his head off. You just bit. It's like what I'm at. Like the heavy from TF2.
No, I don't. Oh, Team Fortress 2. Okay, I remember now. Yes.
He just has this. He has this one specific sound effect that's really famous for when he's eating his sandwich. Just nom 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 nom. That's just how I imagined you eating the guy's head. Jarvis's character was Karlach, the Dragonborn, who was just a really fun character.
He was a fun character. He was a really fun character to play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because he's my character, but I really had fun role-playing him.
I did too, because he's really tough and serious, but almost has a bit of a happy-go-lucky vibe to him. There's almost a bit of a stigma in some parts of the D&D community about characters that are just a little too simple, just generic, big, beefy guy. But Karlach was honestly wholesome, but serious, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and
I wasn't exactly trying to copy like that Goliath character from Vox Machina. Vox
Just
Machina.
I haven't seen Vox Machina, but I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, like because they have a barbarian character and he's like,
Yeah.
a simpleton giant and all that. I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily trying to be like that, though. I think I diverse the character so much or enough that he's not like the happy giant and all that.
Yeah, because he bit off a guy's head.
And he's like, and he and like you said, he does take like stuff seriously.
Mm-hmm. Especially like when it comes to people he doesn't trust.
Mhm.
Like if there's someone he doesn't like trust or gets on his bad side, you're gonna find out really quick that it's not where you want to be. And that's something I thought was cool. Like he does have that serious side. But that didn't stop him from getting to be the prettiest girl at the prom. I want to make that clear.
No, I was not the prettiest girl at the prom. I had a date, but he went chicken shit on me because he's a dragon phobe.
Dragophobe.
Dragon phobe, homophobe.
Oh god.
That's worse.
Honestly, we live in a society.
We live in a society where
This is a society I'm in. Bro, I've had it up to here with all this society around me.
I just had enough of society, guys. And though when Carl tried to do some imitation, I tried to do the thing where he licks his lips like, oh, I'm a big dragonborn. I'm licking my lips to show you how how my teeth are. But I failed the roll, so I imagine his like fat tongue just sticks out like bleh, trying to be intimidating.
There's like gifs of like a cats that are like growling, but then they just stop and just stick out their little tongue.
Yeah.
A bloop. He just did a blep. Blep.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly had fun.
Yeah.
Though I was kind of sorry.
I know like it was your first time playing.
Oh, it's not
but
my
you
first
were
time playing.
Huh?
Oh,
What?
sorry. It was not my first time playing. Like I played a game, but years ago. But I was still green at it. I was still very green at the game.
Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, it was very green at the game. But despite that, you were honestly an awesome player. You cooperated really well with all the other players in the party. I think it was great. And
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to play another game with you sometime with other people like Hubrecht and those guys. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Like, that's one thing. It's like, especially because here's the thing. The people who you were playing with were strangers to you at the time. So the problem I've heard is that when you get all strangers playing together, there can be a lot of push and pull or jockeying for attention. But you and everyone else worked so well as a cohesive group. It was great.
Yeah, and I certainly had fun playing with them. And from my remember, it was your first game, DMing, right?
Yeah. And like that's the thing. You were also very patient with me because I was sort of bumbling my way through it, like not knowing how a lot of the spells work. But yeah, like it was everybody's first experience, and I think it was a positive one. It was great. I would love to DM again or play.
And it's like I don't think you stumbled a lot. You didn't stumble a lot. I think the only thing that you were green at was like the fight scene near the end with that mercenary. That was the green side of it, but you didn't. But of course, one of the players who was a experienced DM was cooperating with you, co-oping with you.
Yeah,
but
like near the end, I let one of my players, who is a more experienced DM, I gave her DM powers as well, and she was able to help me along. And she was a big help. She's great.
Mm-hmm, yeah. She was able to help you. I mean,
yeah, that was great. Like that's the thing. Like with D&D, you meet great people.
And they were a bunch of great people, and we certainly had fun with it, and we all made sure we were all comfortable doing certain things, and we didn't make anything uncomfortable. And I made clear when I was playing this, saying, "Hey, can I do this? Would it be all right if my character were to do this?" Because I didn't want to be that one player that ruins the experience
by just barreling through. Like the only guy who asks permission before brutally eating another person's head.
Well, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if you would be important later or not, and I get stink eyes later.
Yeah. And that was a good call. Like, even though everyone was fine with it, rather than just barreling through, just say like, "Hey, I have an idea, quick." And yeah, I think it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And like
And
that's the thing. I've been getting a little more involved with the D&D community on Twitter and in Discord servers. That's sort of like becoming a bit of my go-to, honestly.
mhm. And what I will say about Dungeons and Dragons is that, well, why I think the special charm from it is that it is a sandbox thing in which it gives you the material, but you can create your own stuff. So you can create your own worlds or create your own little adventures. It's unlike something like 40K where, okay, it does have a setting. It has the world of Dungeons and Dragons, in which it has
Yes.
several, but at the same time, it's just background stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where
You can honestly like take little bits and pieces from the actual established world,
Mhm.
throw out the rest, bring in entirely new things, use the same system, and it'll work just fine. As opposed to 40K, where that's maybe not an option.
Mhm.
Yeah,
like you can bring in stuff like beholders and stuff like that, established D&D monsters who are from this world, but put into your world.
yeah.
It's
Like
very liberating.
as long as you can think up a half decent reason as to why they would be there, you're fine.
Yeah, and again, I have fun time playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I definitely see him charm in it, and I would definitely like to play again. And I would definitely like to bring back Karlug.
Absolutely, that would be a lot of fun. That would be a treat.
Yeah, and I gotta get art on him sometime because he is a really fun character.
Yeah. There are a lot of really good artists who specialize in D&D stuff that I might be able to point you in the direction of, depending on what your price range is. But yeah.
But I also know an artist named Rents. She has done art for me for years, so I can definitely go back to her asking, hey, do you want to do some Dungeons and Dragons art? And she'd be like, she'll probably be excited for stuff like that.
Awesome. Nice.
Like, it'll be different from my usual 40K commission.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Though I think we've reached a good point where I can actually ask you some questions people have asked of us, if that's fine with you.
Man, fire away.
Sure thing. So, question number 1. Okay, so I am curious. Favorite book, novel, epic, whatever. It can be any genre.
No, it doesn't have to be 40K. Well, I think
it doesn't have to be 40K, no.
That is a tough one. God, that's really tough. The book series that I just finished, the Three Dark Crowns series, which is a series of 4 books, I really liked, and I devoured those books in earnest. Because it's a really cool, magical, dark fantasy setting about queens, basically queen sisters who are locked in a duel to the death. And it's got romance and a lot of cool elements, a lot of really interesting characters. That was a great series. It did fall a little short at the end, but it was a great series. Favorite comic book? Woof, that is hard. That is a hard one. I've been on a hardcore comics kick lately, so I would actually say my favorite comic book series would have to be either Requiem Vampire Knight, which is a long trilogy that's been on not a long trilogy, a long series, like 12 issues, that's been on hiatus right near the end for the past, I think, 7 years. We're still waiting on that. Yeah, we're still waiting on it. The creator assures everyone that the end is coming, but that's been on hiatus for a long time. But Requiem Vampire Knight, it's absolutely amazing. The art is beyond gorgeous. It starts out really gloomy and grim and serious and very heavy metal, but it just gets funnier and funnier as it goes on. And by the time issue 7 rolled around, I was in tears laughing at the end of every issue. Like, it just gets great.
I think
and I might actually reread it because I was enjoying it that much. My favorite 40K book, though, because I do like your multiple ones, my favorite 40K book, that would have to be either a toss-up between some of the Eisenhorn book, one of the Eisenhorn books in that trilogy. I'm not sure which one. I think maybe I think maybe Malleus. Yeah, I think maybe Eisenhorn Malleus might be one of my favorite 40K books, if not The Black Legion by Aaron Dembski Bowden, or yeah, I think it'd be one of those two, either Eisenhorn Malleus or The Black Legion. Those were both really good books.
I think for me, because I already listed my favorite 40K books plenty time again. If I were to say my favorite book outside of Warhammer, I think would have to be Ilian's Earthhive. I'm not sure if you heard of it.
I haven't, but it sounds cool.
So basically, it's based off a comic book series made in the 80s that served as a sequel to Aliens before Alien 3 came out. It was basically a story about Hicks and Newt, like when much later after Aliens.
Oh, I see.
I won't say too much, just so maybe you guys can track down a book and read it yourselves, and it'll probably take me a little while to describe the story, but it's about them tracking down the aliens to their homeworld because the government wanted a specimen of their own, and there's bunch of side plots that happens in the book. But like Hicks is like a, grudgy sergeant now, and Newt is like in this mental asylum for a bit, and she's like a 20-year-old. But they come back together later, and Hicks saves her from the asylum, but at the same time, there's no other way she can go but this little mission to the aliens' homeworld. And a bunch of stuff happens, and eventually Earth has a alien pandemic going on. So that's...
Oh, God. Oh, no.
But again, I won't say too much, but if you want to read a story on aliens that's much better than, Alien 3, then I would say pick up that book.
That sounds very interesting because the wider lore for the Alien series is actually incredibly interesting for how the xenomorphs were created. Like in some of the movies, like nowadays, like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, the wider lore for that whole universe for aliens is really good. It's very interesting and very a lot more expansive than a lot of people realize. It's great.
And I will say this though, for some reason in the book version, they changed Hicks and Newt's name to Wilkes and Billy, and they try making them different characters, but the comic books that the book was based off of, because this is a book adaptation of the original comic book series, were named Hicks and Newt, and they were the same characters from Aliens. So when you're reading this book, just literally think of Wilkes and Billy as Hicks and Newt. Like, literally, they're the exact same character.
I see. That's interesting. That's really cool.
It's like I told my friend that when I lent him my book back in high school. It's like, literally, Wilkes and Billy are Hicks and Newt. So don't think of them as separate people. They are the same people.
Yeah. Just, these are totally original for the book character. Bilks and Blilly. These are our characters. It's not Newt, it's Boot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The class changed the first letter to a B. Boot. But
up and onwards,
one last thing. Another recent comic book series I absolutely loved, and this is why I think I have definitely an infatuation with dark fantasy. It is a comic book series called the Elric of Melniboné by Titan Comics. They released the fourth one, I think, at the end of last year. It is an absolutely gorgeous, very good series, endorsed by the original creator of the character Elric of Melniboné. Yeah, it was great.
It sounds like a great book series.
It is. It's really good. It's dark fantasy, and the world of Elric. Warhammer actually takes a lot of aspects from the Elric series. Dark Eldar, Homunculus, the Eight-Pointed Star of Chaos, among other things.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
A lot of things are taken, and if you read anything from Elric of Melniboné, which I highly recommend, the Titan Comics 4-book series, you're absolutely going to start seeing the parallels, and it's really fun. It's really interesting. It's like an Easter egg almost.
GW better send cease of desist. Someone's taking your original IP. Trying
to kidnap what we've rightfully stolen.
Kind of like how you said send a cease and desist to Dune. That
was so fucked. GW is, or how they tried to copyright the term, I think, what was it they tried to copyright?
They try to copy a lot of things during years. They tried, and it's like, I think eventually the English court was like, GW, I'll let you rename your elves with an A for silence for your little saying if you stop coming to court every other month. All right,
Just leave.
Yeah.
Literal consolation prize.
Yeah, thank you, my lord.
Oh god.
Because that's what they used to address judges in Britain. It's lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They say the right honorable lord. Yeah. That's why they wear the wig in Britain specifically. But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. So, anyways, on and onwards. I think what Primarch needs to come back next? Why is it the Lion?
Well, the Lion would be okay. I think it would be really cool to have Lionel Johnson come back. Just saying that is because the way he would react to what the Imperium has become since the absence of the Primarchs, and also what it's become ever since Guilliman has returned. Mm-hmm. Like how he would react to all that, and like the push and pull that would maybe happen between him and Guilliman, like the tension between them, but maybe them also coming together. And I think it'd be really cool, and especially since he's in stasis, similar to how Guilliman was. Like
it's confirmed that he's been alive, and honestly, that is the most appropriate Primarch to bring back because, again, it would bring like an interesting conflict between the brothers, and definitely see how the Lion would react to the Mar Imperium. Yeah.
Especially because of what his personality is like. Like, if Rogel Dorn was to come back, or Jagatai Khan, they would probably be on Guilliman's side and be able to work with him. But the Lion, him being the very headstrong, abrasive, and proud person he is, would probably have objections, and it would probably cause tension.
Yeah, it'll be like two people trying to take the steering wheel of a giant ship. It's like, give me it.
Basically, like, Guilliman is very much becoming the protagonist of 40K in the current situation as it is, and I think the Lion would make an amazing Lancer as a foil. But going aside from him, I think the next best Primarch to bring back aside from the Lion would be, well, Loyalist Primarch would maybe be, well, you can't bring back Ferrus Manus because he's like confirmed dead, and you can't bring back Sanguinius because, yeah, also dead. I think the next one would be probably Rogel Dorn, just because of how much the fans love Rogel Dorn and how fun that would be, and how much that would really galvanize a lot of the legions and the Black Templars. I think it would really give the Imperium another win to it. I think it would be really fun. Just because, like, not how, like, the Lion would interact best with the wider setting in Guilliman, but Rogel Dorn is a fun character, and I think people would just be really happy to just see him.
And also, real quick, I want to tell you this little like alternate scenario I had in mind for like an alternate, timeline, you could say, that I always had in mind that I figure I can tell you about that does involve Lionel Johnson, if you're interested.
Oh, go for it.
Like my whole idea is that Cadia would still fall and the galaxy would be split in two, and Guilliman will still come back. But later on, it's been revealed that the Eldar are actually controlling Guilliman like a puppet. And he's sort of like holding Terra hostage and the other half of the Imperium hostage. Is all under, technically, Eldar control.
Oh.
And someone like Guilliman, he has the flaming sword of the Emperor. He's like, one of the most prized Primarchs, in my point of view, and like, the quote-unquote pantheon of Primarchs, because of his role and what he has done, and what his ultramarines are. So even though he's their poster boy, even though he's the poster boy of this one half of the Imperium, technically it's not really him. He's just a little puppet being played by the Eldar, like especially by Euphrain and all that.
Like under their influence, or literally under like magic control?
Well, I mean, not under magic, but like his armor that he wears, because it is Eldar in origin,
I see.
Yeah, so even though they say it's the Imperium of Man, but on this one half of the Imperium, technically it's Eldar influenced. But Lionel Johnson, he comes back later on and he routes the other loyalist chapters who haven't taken in the Primaris, recruits, because the whole idea is that Belshazzar's call has actually done his little civil war in which his Primaris Marines have turned against the Imperium, so that it can be under his control.
Oh boy.
Because it's almost like the clone troopers from Star Wars, where they're like programmed with this chip saying execute Order 66 and all that. Yeah.
Oh boy.
And this is almost like, so he's not an ally with the Eldar, but it's just sort of let's help each other out by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits everyone. It benefits everyone. However, chapters like Dark Angels and Flesh Terrors, who are, more hostile towards the idea of Primaries originally, they have actually are routing to the other half of the galaxy that has been split,
Yeah.
And from this, Lionel Johnson has come back. He's actually woken up from his, little sleep and, routes the other chapters and all the other loyalists.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to him, to Gilliman, he doesn't have the titles. He doesn't have like the Emperor's sword. He's a Primarch, but he doesn't have, the symbolism,
the reputation or the numbers and all that. Yeah.
Or the influence.
Yeah.
So it's like Gilman, he's like I forgot the title that he's been given recently.
Lord Commander.
Yeah, he's not the Lord Commander. He doesn't have the artifacts and all that. Lionel Johnson is important, but Gilliman has that image.
Yeah. The
so
image on the record.
Yeah, so I thought that would be like an interesting like Civil War and all that. That would make an excellent story, I think, in the timeline video.
Heresy 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Technically, no. I would call it the Belisarius Heresy.
Oh, yeah. The Collian Heresy. Collian or Belisarian.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
That would be really interesting. I think that could be played really well. Lion having to rally forces and essentially fight almost a guerrilla war. Mm-hmm. In his half of the Imperium Nihilus.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I think it would make a cool alternate timeline video if I were to do something like that.
Absolutely.
And last question. If you could have any faction, sub-faction, Imperial Guard Regiment, Space Marine Chapter, or Xenos represented on the tabletop that isn't yet, which would be?
Is not represented on the tabletop yet. That's a hard one, because I think here's the problem. A lot of the things that aren't represented yet only exist in the canon as small numbers of isolated groups who wouldn't fit well into actually being an army. Like the Hrud would be an interesting thing because they have temporal distortion powers. But I think one thing that would be cool would be to introduce Inquisitor models.
Mm-hmm.
Like things that are more solidly Inquisitor in nature, as opposed to just being the various chamber militants, like the Grey Knights, or Death Watch, or the Adeptus Sororitas. Like an actual Inquisitor model, or an Interrogator model, or Inquisitorial Acolyte model. Things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I don't want to see them done as a faction, but I think to add them. And I'll tell you my whole thing. So in the book of Fabius Bile, this is not really a spoiler. Everyone basically knows this. It's that Fabius Bile has actually made his own little version of Space Marines called Glenhounds. And I actually talked about this in the last podcast, where they are these sort of like pseudo Space Marines, but he's able to make women versions and they're able to procreate. They're able to like breed with each other. They are his sort of new men.
Since the Demon Kalaba was a bit of a bust, yeah.
Yeah. So, in a way, Space Marines are wolves, but the Glenhounds are, hound dogs. They're able to be mass printed, in a sense, compared to Space Marines.
It's like a Space Marine light, almost, in a way. I think, that's something I thought was cool.
Exactly.
Exactly. And like, it's like a numbers thing, yeah.
So, in a way...
That's always been a weakness of Chaos Space Marines. Like, aside from, demons can just come from nowhere, but Chaos Space Marines have very limited numbers and numbers that consistently dwindle. Like, you have to just sit by and wait to salvage new power armor, or to wait for another chapter to have a mass defection or something like that.
And they're long living too.
Mm-hmm. But like having that sort of injection of new blood by Fabius Bile, who is just such a consequential character. Like, he drives forward a lot of things.
Like, and the whole point about me mentioning these clan hounds is that eventually, I think, and this is probably going to happen in 10th edition, is that when the Emperor's Children get new models, do something separate from, the Noise Marines and all that. And the way to do that would be Glenhound models.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
that would be really cool. Because, like, when you say hound, I would imagine they would have almost a bit of a hunched over kind of stance. Almost, you remember almost that you mentioned that almost hellhound aesthetic for Khorne models. You could have a little bit of that with Glenhounds. That slots right in. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, and I had someone tell me that would Fabius Bile technically be his own little faction? I said, well, not necessarily, because for Commander Farsight, he's in the Tau Codex, and he's always been in the Tau Codex, even though he and his enclaves are their own little thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see it being too different for a character like Fabius Bile and the Emperor's Children in a sense.
Yeah.
Even though he's his own little thing, he's still part of the quote-unquote Codex.
Yeah. But an entire whole shtick of just Fabius, an entire whole army of Fabius Bile related things could be awesome. Fabius Bile as the champion, and various demons, various abominations and constructs. He has his own little kind of demon that Fabius Bile has. He has clones that you could have as fodder units.
Exactly.
And now Glenhounds. Yeah, Fabius Bile. The idea of just a Fabius Bile army works really well, actually. That very good. Hats off to you. That is a very good idea, honestly.
Exactly. And yeah, I think it could work, and I'd be surprised if Games Workshop didn't do something like that, if they didn't do stuff like Glenhounds.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think we have reached the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to say before we call it a day?
Yes. One little fun idea I actually did have once for how the return of Guilliman could have been handled differently. That being, when they remove the stasis field, Guilliman just immediately drops dead. So Yvrain and Belisarius Call have to just put a pair of sunglasses on him and puppet his limp dead body around like Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh, with that original idea, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's your idea reminded me of that. It's the base one of him being controlled, but mine's a little more literal. He's just limp with sunglasses on. They just tape the sword into his hand, and they're just propping him up, puppeting around
Oh boy.
God.
That sounds like a fun little parody idea too.
Yeah. Or another idea, what if they tried to bring back anyone like Guilliman or the Emperor himself, but the resurrection process is incomplete, so he just comes back as a Futurama style head in a jar?
Well, if they put his head in a jar, the Terra would be screwed over because the warp would immediately flood. Flood the whole planet.
Oops. God.
However, with all said and done, thank you all for watching, and thank you, Chrono, for coming on to this podcast today.
And thank you for having me. This was a blast. This was a lot of fun.
This definitely was a lot of fun. And thank you all for watching. There's another podcast every month.